Before you can add any actions to your script, it's important to understand what input you can provide. In this video, I'll use a practical example to show you how to configure the input for your scripts. Before we can start adding actions to a script, it's important to understand what input we can provide. In this video, I'm going to start creating a script that interacts with Singular Live to show or hide an overlay on a video stream. So let's connect to DataMiner Cube and create our automation script. Before I create my automation script, let me first show the Singular Live element. So this element interacts with the API of Singular Live, and I have a specific app with some logos and a banner that I can insert on the video stream that I'm sending to Singular Live. So in my script, what I want to do is actually show or hide the banner with some text. And to do that, I need to set the state to in or out. So let's start creating our script now. I will first create a new folder and call it Singular Live. And under that folder, I'll start creating my script. So I select Add Script and I'll call this one Singular Live Overlay and give it a nice description. And save my script. Now you'll notice again that I cannot execute my script yet. That is because there is no action defined. In this video, I don't want to go into too much details of the actions, so I'll add an information event again. So I would be able to show you how we need to define the inputs. So now I can execute my script, and you'll notice there's nothing extra that I need to define before I can execute. But obviously, to correctly configure our Singular Live overlay, I need some input. And the first thing I need is actually a way to provide my Singular Live elements to my script. That is done by using dummies. So I'll add a new dummy and give it a Singular Live name. The name of your dummy needs to be unique inside your script because it will be used later on in your actions. You will notice a dummy is linked to a protocol and a version. In my case, I need to select Singular Live and I will select the production version. Why is it important to use the production version? When their API would change and we create a new protocol version, if you link it to the production version, then your script will still work as it should. If you wouldn't, then each time you change the version of your element, you would also have to change your script. So if I now save my script and execute, you will notice that I need to provide an element for my Singular Live dummy. As long as that element is not defined, I'm not able to execute my script. So now this dropdown will show all the Singular Live elements on my system. In my case, I only have one, so it's quite straightforward which one to select. You will notice for a dummy that I can also provide a configuration element. When I provide the configuration element here and save, if I now want to test my script and execute again, the element is already pre-selected, but that is actually not the main reason why you would provide a configuration element. Providing a configuration element will actually be very useful in your actions, because whenever you want to do an action with the dummy Singular Live, it will now use the configuration element to show you what keys or values are available for your Singular Live dummy. So it's a good idea to always link a configuration element to make it easier to configure your actions later on. Because a dummy is linked to a protocol and a version, I'm only able to pass Singular Live elements now. If I would want to pass additional elements, I would have to create additional dummies for that. But do note that each dummy that you provide or configure needs a provided element, otherwise you will not be able to execute your script. Now that we have created our dummy and we have a way to pass our Singular Live element, the second thing we want to do is configure what action our script will execute. Remember, we are able to show or hide our overlay. So to do that, I won't use a dummy, I will use a parameter. So let me add a parameter and call it action. If I now execute my script again, first save it, you will notice I need to still provide my dummy, but I also need to pass an action now. And here I can provide any text I want. Now, in our case, that's not really useful because we have a limited set of actions that we can use. So for that, I will actually use a values file. This values file is then used to link the actions that you can execute, or to limit the actions that you can execute. So here, if I select it, I have a drop down of actions or values files that I can use. And I have already created one for this script. It's called singular life overlay actions. And what is this values file? It is actually a memory file. So if I go to the memory files here, you will notice I have one file in there that I have selected. And this is actually a simple file with some entries. In my case, I have a show, hide, and fade value in there. Now, because I have linked that values file to my parameter, if I would now execute my script again, you'll notice my action is no longer free text box. It's actually a drop down where I need to select one of these actions. This is quite useful because now a user cannot provide a wrong action that my script is not created for. Again, if I have multiple parameters I want to pass, it's as simple as adding additional type, for example. But do note that now I also need to provide a value for every parameter in my script. Now, this type parameter is not needed for my singular life overlay script, so I'll remove it again. The last type of input we can use in our script is memory files. We already used a memory file to limit the possible actions that we can use in our script, but you can also provide a full memory file as input. Now, there are two different types of memory files, volatile and persistent. What is the difference? If I use a volatile memory file, then whatever I put in that memory will only be available during the duration of my script. As whenever my script stops, or when my script is done, that memory will be cleared again. If I use a persistent memory file, then that memory will still be available after my script is done. For example, when my script is executed in the future, I will still be able to access whatever I added to that file in a previous duration of a script. If I now save my script and execute, you will notice that persistent memory files need to be linked to a memory file created here. Now I only have one memory file, so I can only select that one. And again, before you can execute your script, a memory file needs to be selected, otherwise you won't be able to execute it. Now, in our case, for the singular life script, we will not use memory files, but it's important to know that they exist. So now that we know how to provide input in our scripts, the obvious next step is adding actions. That's something we will do in future videos.